Welcome back to the How Can You podcast, where we dive deep into the minds of entrepreneurs, figure out how they got where they are today, so then you can hopefully do the same thing. So today I'm here with Khoa. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Khoa, 26 years old, just living in Bali, been traveling around the world for the last two and a half years. Lived in Norway, Amsterdam, Madrid, Mexico, Australia, yeah, a bunch of different other places as well. So
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on today.
for sure.
So I kind of want to start with your early days. So I find there's a pattern with most entrepreneurs that something is different about the early days than the regular people, we can call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want to tell me about your childhood, your upbringing, and yeah?
Cool. Do you want to go into professional or you want to go into childhood stuff?
I think childhood stuff that made you who you are, that made you take a different route than before.
Interesting. So for me personally, actually, this is a very recent insight that I found out about. That's for me personally, I'm a very spiritual first, meaning for all of us, actually, all of us have it, right? Like all of us have this like quiet voice within us, like there's this quiet whisper, like, and it's not ego. And what I mean by not ego is ego and just the flesh and the human condition, like it's very loud, right? Our emotions are like this. But if you listen quietly, there's this voice, there's this consistent, still voice that just never goes away. And it says the same thing over and over again, right? It's the same thing, it's the same voice. And for me, I recognized that I had that when I was like 7 years old, just like the movies that like I actually like the movie like Spirit, like these are like animation movies, like back in the day, obviously I'm 7, right? Like the movie Spirit, like the movie Cars, etc. Very, obviously very animated, very childhood movies, but the point was the values within it, right? Like the values that those movies upheld for me at the time were essentially predicting my life, right? Actually, so a really good example is if you think about your favorite movie, right? Like if you guys think about your favorite movies, what you'll realize is probably like 8 or 9 times out of 10, the reason why you like it is because you resonate with the main character. Like you resonate deeply with the main character, but then there's a why. Often our lives play out the way that the movie plays out. I didn't fucking know that. I didn't know that at the time, right? So for me, to answer your question, how was my childhood? It was exactly like that movie Cars. Like it was I don't know, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the plot too much, but yeah.
So basically in the first movie, it was a super rookie who everything was just easy. And then he hit challenges later on in life, right? My life actually was very similar in terms of, so some people have like rag to riches stories, like how like they get bullied and then they like turn their lives around and have like some kind of glow up or something. I was flipped, meaning my childhood was quite I want to be humble about it, but it was quite on the easier side, right? Like parents were great, didn't get bullied, girls were, it was just simple for me, and then making friends was simple as well. School was also very simple. But here's where the but comes in, is that when I was 20 years old, 17 to about 20, I dated this girl. She dumped me, right? I think just before my 20th birthday. And that crushed everything. My heart shattered into like 1,000 different pieces. And for the first time ever, I recognized what emotional trauma was. I was like, oh, so this is what pain feels like. Right? I didn't know that. And then so I went from someone who was really arrogant to someone who became really, not really, but like quite sensitive. Like I'm sensitive to even to lights, to music. I used to host like parties and stuff. Now I can't really do it anymore. Sensitive to other people. It's like I can walk into a room and then feel the room. Right? Like I can feel people's emotions, and this is after. This is after the breakup, after getting dumped, after all of that. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so if I'm correct, when we were talking before, you were explaining to me how you kind of had two different lives. So how you went from, you got everything that you thought you wanted, the girls, the money, the cars, the whatever, but then you realized this isn't it. So do you want to talk to me about that? And then after, maybe talk to me about how that led you to now your second life?
Good question. So for me, I'm still on my trajectory of success. So I haven't hit the level of success that I want, right? So I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
But I did have a period of my life. Most of these guys don't, just an FYI, most of these guys don't own these cars, right? Like, we rent them.
Yeah.
We rent them, just have fun, whatever, shoot content, etc. And so, just to come back to that story, right? What ended up happening was, when I was 20, got my heart broken. Went from someone who was super arrogant to now I can feel for the first time, essentially, right? And then what ended up happening was, well, for me, I recognized, all right, because at that time I had social anxiety, I had depression, I had so much fear, right? I remember being so afraid of talking to people that I was afraid of talking to cashiers. It was that bad. Actually, this is a really good story too. It was so bad to the point where I had a panic attack at the clubs, right? I was clubbing, 20 years old, just started clubbing. And then my friends would be like, hey, go hit on this girl, go hit on that girl, blah, 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 blah. Couldn't do it. My house, boom, 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 right? Legit had a panic attack at the clubs. I had to leave. I remember crossing the street, going to an abandoned building, right? It was like an abandoned building, so I went to the second level, and I just sat down, like, right next to the wall, and I just sat down. 15 minutes later, my friend calls me. He's like, yo, where did you go? Blah, 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 blah. Where did you go? We're all looking for you. And I told him, I was like, hey, I've got a panic attack, and then he came. It was that bad. So at that time, I was like, all right, enough is enough. How do I fix this? And to me, I saw two solutions, right? Either I go for the root problem, which is I have a lot of fear, I cannot communicate at the moment, or I go for a symptom of the root problem, which is, and the way I saw it was this: either I go do, because at the time I saw like public speaking stuff, I was getting ads about it. I was like, oh, that looks like it makes sense. Communication, like, if I can't speak right now, I need to go learn this. Or go to the gym, get jacked. And, try to indirectly solve the problem. I went for the first one. So I did public speaking workshops, I did improv, I did vocal exercises. I was in groups, basically like quote unquote Toastmasters, not official Toastmasters, but like quote unquote Toastmasters, where you would have public speaking challenges every week. Like, we have challenges every week. You didn't do it, you get kicked. You got kicked out. Right? It was that cutthroat. A year later, I'd regained my confidence back. Started partying from about the ages of 21 to about 23. 24, I stopped all of that. Completely cut off my party friends. Moved out of my hometown. Obviously, this is a period of time. There's like 6 months, maybe a year. Moved out of my hometown, went to Gold Coast, which is, I don't know if you guys know anything about Gold Coast, but it's a little bit like it has like the LA vibes of for Australia. Right, so I moved to that. More specifically because I had a community there, or I knew a community there that was half spiritual and half wealthy. And that's what I wanted at the time. I liked the where you would, go rent cars and shit, or just go do fun stuff and then go to like a breath work and then jump back into the car. That's what I liked at the time. So I was like, all right, let's go do that. So I found spirituality. And that was the pivot between the two lives that you were talking about. So the first life was partying and then taking drugs and all of that like style. But I knew that deep down wasn't for me. Like, you know it. You know it. All right. And how you know it is this thing that I call it like signals, right? Like, you have signals, like it's think about like a radar, right? It's not loud. It's like a little beep, 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 right? It's a signal. And basically every time I took drugs, every time I went clubbing, or every time I went out or partied, there was this beep within my soul. And I was like, this isn't it. You gotta get out of this. This is so dirty, it's so ratchet, it's so just whatever. right? So, but that lasted for like 3 years before I stopped. Maybe you guys can relate. Maybe you can relate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know for sure. So what was it that made you not listen to that for 3 years?
The first thing that comes to mind was I didn't know any other way. Meaning I didn't have access to any other way. Right. That resonated with me at the very least. And then I had a business coach. Well, I saw a business coach's, like, they're like social media stuff at the time. And I was like, oh, there's another way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this coach was, talking about spirituality, but also talking about wealth. And that's what I want to.
Mm-hmm. So you went through this phase of you were confident, and then you became unconfident, and then you kind of gained your confidence back, started going out again, but then you were really like, this isn't for me. Like, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, there was that signal, and then finally you listened to the signal. What was your first step into spirituality?
A really, 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 really good question. For me, it's community, meaning if you can find, and it's not that difficult. I say community, but like literally just pay into someone's community. Like just find someone you like, pay into their community, get into their community. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not that difficult. But it's literally being in a community, and the best is in person. Being in a community in person where you can, like, the words that they use, like they're talking about, child, or they're talking about shadow work, or they're talking about modalities, or they're talking about NLP, or whatever it was. From there, you can actually like start to, by osmosis, you learn, right? So I started going to the events, right? I started doing breath work. I started doing meditation, like TM meditation, which is transcendental meditation, which is what Oprah and Ray Dalio does, right? I started doing, the Beatles also did it, like they made it popular back in the day. I started doing like DMT breath work, which is basically breath work to enhance the DMT within your body. DMT. I don't know too much about it. I'm not pro, but got into, like, found out about, there's polarity in the divine feminine, divine masculine, etc., 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 etc. Recently, I've come back to more of like Christianity. So I have a bit of a mix, right, of like Christianity, spirituality, and Bushido, which is like the way of the samurai, but that's a whole other story with itself.
Yeah. Okay. So did you grow up Christian?
Yeah, I was baptized, but the big but is, I never considered myself Christian, ever. And the reason why was, I was like, this is stupid. Right. I'm a very like intellectual person. Well, I like to think I am. And I thought, I was like, this isn't it. So I would go like church with my parents or whatever, and I'll just be outside. I wouldn't even go in. I'd just be outside chilling, just hanging with my friends or whatever. So yeah, I was baptized, but I did that all by force. And then essentially, as life kind of unfolded, I came back to it alone.
That's very interesting. So do you see yourself going deeper into Christianity, going deeper into spirituality? Where do you see yourself?
Yeah, really good question. So for me, I reckon that, so basically over the last, I would say 6 to 8 months, I tried putting spirituality, business, and relationship all on the same plane, on the same level. It didn't work. It was just too much. It was too much to do, too much to hold, too much to whatever. And there was no prioritization. And then what I realized was, oh shit, I need to do this. Basically what it means is I need to put spirituality first, and then business and relationship and all of that is secondary. Because what I realized is, if I'm connected to source, if I'm connected to universe, God, whatever it is, spirit, then I show up to everything literally 100 times better. So 100 times better. Like, it's not linear. Like, it's not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times better. Like, I literally show up as a better son, a better leader, a better entrepreneur, a better boyfriend, a better whatever. Right? And that's when I realized, oh, this is who I am at my core, that I am spiritual first, everything else.
Wow. So how do you manage that? What does it look like?
So for me, I have a practice, right? And it changes, like it varies. Sometimes it's meditation, sometimes it's breath work, sometimes it's flow 16, sometimes it's other things, right? But it's typically some sort of practice that I'm doing, where, yeah, usually it's in the morning, right? And I get that down first. So for the first like half hour, I'm like doing some sort of practice, right? So that's how I connect back to source or connect back to the universe or God or spirit, whatever it is, before I do anything else. If I don't get this done, I'm screwed. Like, I just know it, right? I just know I operate from such a lower level state. You're just screwed.
Mm-hmm. So it's like essential for you every single day to connect with that source and then be able to almost bring that source out into your life.
Yeah.
That's cool. So talk to me about business. Were you always an entrepreneur? Did you get into entrepreneur? Talk to me about that.
Good question. So, do you know the show Shark Tank?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Do you know Mark Cuban on that show? All right. So I grew up, during my high school years, I grew up like watching that show, right? Shark Tank. And I read Mark Cuban's book. I think it's like this, How to Win in the Sport of Business or something. I read the book. I think in the first like 10 pages, I'm not sure, but probably in the first 10, he said something along the lines of sales. If you learn sales, right, you will never be broke ever in the rest of your life. I'm like 17 at the time. I didn't know any better. Never had a job, right? I thought, all right, I'll go do that. But my personality, like I'm very 0 or 100. Like I'm either super competitive and I'm in all the way, or I'm not interested, right? Like there's no gray zone for my brain at least. So for me, I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I want the hardest sales job I can find. So I did door-to-door sales, but it wasn't just door-to-door. So most people that do door-to-door, FYI, they're selling they're selling solar or they're selling like pest control, whatever it is, something that they can actually sell. I was like, no, too easy. I wanted door-to-door sales extremely hard. So I went door-to-door sales selling charity, but it wasn't just charity donations. It was charity on a contract. So we sold people to donate to a charity on a contract for 2 years. Direct debit out of their bank account for 2 years. And that was the sell. Pure commission only, no base. That was my first job ever. I was like, that is what I want to learn.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I did. Lasted a couple months. I say lasted because it's brutal. Brutal. Right. Most people last like a week or two. And either they get fired or they're out. Right? Just because it's so hard.
Yeah.
So did that. And then afterwards, I did customer service for Uber. So Uber had their company headquarters in my hometown, Adelaide. Did that for a little bit, for like 6 months. And then, I mean, standard story, right? Just failed at drop shipping, failed at affiliate marketing. I don't know, you can put so many things in there. Social media agency, like I failed at everything. It wasn't until I became an appointment setter for this 7-figure agency, right? I think they were doing 7 figures at the time, or multi-7 was one of those. Yeah, so it was a sales and marketing agency. I started as an appointment setter. There was a bit of a learning curve, which I didn't understand, because my brain is so like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, right? And then I realized, all sales is just social skills in a business context. And that's when it clicked. Because I had already mastered, like, quote unquote mastered, and like got really good at social skills. Because I was partying.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I recognized how to like read the room. I recognized how to, make people attracted to you, or make guys come, or make girls come, or, that's what I learned. So for example, one of the things in appointment setting, or one of the things in sales is that you want to hold the frame, right? What that means is who has control of the conversation. And there's also something called like, I call it personally the hand raiser, right? If you can get people to essentially raise their hand to be open to you for the conversation, like they're the one on the back foot, then you kind of win, right? Meaning, and how does that apply in a social skills situation? Let's say I'm at dinner with someone, or let's say I'm at a dinner with a girl or a guy or like a business contact. Actually, let's use a dating situation. It's a lot more easier to understand. Let's say I'm at dinner with a girl, right, or with a woman. If she's leaning in more than I'm leaning in, more consistently as well, I'm the one that has more frame over the conversation because she's showing more interest. Does that make sense?
Does make sense.
Right, and it's the same thing with any social contact. Right, if you're the one chilled, laid back, XYZ, right, then you have more, or you have a little bit more of a bird's eye view, right? Because you're not the one more invested. Like, who's more invested?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit of a dance. Like, social skills is a little bit of a dance. Once I understood that, I was like, oh, that's what it is. So I legit took the skills that I knew, translated it over to business, became really good appointment setter, and then I actually became a really good DM closer. What that means is, it's not as popular now, but what it is instead of hopping on a phone call, you collect cash, or you make the sale within the messaging, which is actually even better than phone call because you never have to hop on a phone call. Right? Got really good at that. Ended up becoming the sales manager, and then became sales director, and then became COO of that agency, all within like 18 months or something. By the end of it, we were talking about a profit share agreement, right, between like four or five partners or something. And we were like 4 weeks into the process, so we were all going to be partners. I decided to transition out. All right, I was like, all right, I want to go start my own thing now. But yeah, that was the process.
So did you go to university?
Yeah, I dropped out 3 times.
Why?
Good question. So I did computer science for the first time because I wanted to be like a tech. I just got really inspired by like Tony Stark and like Iron Man and shit like that. And I was like, all right, I want that. So I did computer science. Turns out it wasn't what I thought it was. Right, obviously. And then it was like all this coding stuff. And I was like, I didn't get it. Also, yeah, it just wasn't like the people that I wanted to surround myself with. So I was like, all right, I'm out. 2 weeks later, I was out. And then I did entrepreneurship online. 2 weeks later, I was done with that as well. And then I did entrepreneurship in person at like a proper university institution. 2 weeks later, I was done with that as well.
So what was your problem with entrepreneurship?
It's stupid. Yeah. Just go and do the thing. I was legit learning it. I'm like, this is dumb. Have you created a business? Actually, Ray Dalio says something really good. He's like, he has a principle called believable, right? Listen to believable people. Basically what he means is, and he says this within his book Principles, he goes, someone who is believable is someone who has done the thing successfully 3 or more times. If they've done it once, if they've done it twice, they're not yet believable. But if they've done it 3, they have a track record. Right? Because you can luck your way into once. You can luck your way into twice. But 3 times, there's probably a really good chance you're good. Right? So the people teaching these courses, are you believable? No? Yeah. Sweet. I'm out. Right. So it was just that.
100%. I totally resonate with that because I was going to go into entrepreneurship program as well. But I was like, after talking to entrepreneurs and also listening to entrepreneurs, I was like, it doesn't make sense. It makes 0 sense. Like the best way is just to do it.
Yeah.
And like you'll hear a lot on like podcasts, books, whatever, of like successful people saying, just start. And it's so true. But people that haven't started yet, it's like, it's hard for them to wrap their mind around it. But that was the best thing I ever did, was just start. Because then when I started, it opened up so many more opportunities in my mind. Like all these things were there before, but since I started and I started to understand things, then these opportunities started to present themselves. Yeah. So you dropped out, and then you went on to do door-to-door sales. And then
Actually, I did door-to-door sales first when I was 17, dropped out during the period of 17 to like 2020. So those 3 years, I was just fucking around, playing video games, whatever it is.
Right. And then you went to work at Uber, customer service.
Yeah, when I was like 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went to work for this agency as an appointment setter, and eventually you worked your way up.
24.
Okay. And then you were there for how long?
I think like 18 months. Around that.
18 months.
Yeah.
So around 25-ish, you decided, okay, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And then that's when you started your own thing.
Technically, I wouldn't say it wasn't for me. It was for me at the time, right? Because we all have like a trajectory, like we all have a timeline, we all have a soul's journey, and then it's what resonates with you at the time. And all you can do is you just, for me personally, I have a question that I ask myself, and the question is, does this feel true? Right? And then every time I ask myself that, like every time I'm at a fork road, I just ask, does this feel true? Does this feel true, or does this feel true? Right? Or if I'm like, literally throughout the day, I ask myself this a lot. And whatever comes up, the instant reaction, yes or no? Boom, yes or no? Which one is the one that I go? Because when you ask yourself that question, you're pretty much like asking your soul, your subconscious, whatever it is. Hey, tell me, give me the answers. All right. And it's on you to follow through.
100%. Yeah, I want to talk about subconscious. So like, as we from 0 to 7, we're obviously programmed.
Yeah.
And then from 7 to, depending on the person, their whole life, we run these programs. But one of the pivotal points in my journey was to understand that I could be reprogrammed, and then actually embarking on the journey of reprogramming myself. So what was your journey like for that? Did you have to sort of reprogram yourself, and how did you do it?
Good question. For me, how I see a lot of this is just paradigms, meaning what is what is my worldview around this topic or whatever it is. Like if I have to reprogram, like if something's not working, right, then that means I have to reprogram. Right. But it's about what paradigm do I have? Like, what is my paradigm around this? And paradigms, all it is it just consists of worldview, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, all of that stuff. Right. It consists of everything. And then it's all into one. And then it's on you to be able to distinguish what is my paradigm around this. Right. So, for example, if someone wants to start their own business, or they want to get better with, I don't know, social skills or speaking or writing or whatever it is, right? If I ask them like, hey, do you believe you can truly do this? Bang. Instantly, the answer that comes out of their head is they're either going to feel an emotion, or they're going to think a thought, or something is going to happen. And if you don't believe you can, your emotions or something, like basically what's going to happen is your body and mind are going to do this. And you can feel it. You can feel that you're not neutral. Right? Anything that's not neutral is essentially you getting triggered because you're not neutral.
Interesting.
Because neutral is stillness. Neutral is you coming out of like stillness and source and truth, and it's calm. Like that is what's true. This is right. So when you ask someone, hey, do you believe that you can become successful? That's a big one. They're gonna be triggered, or they're gonna say, yeah, I can because XYZ did it, or X blah 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 blah. Just watch. Look at the emotion. Right. So to come back to your question of how do you like change that, or XYZ, but was first recognizing, am I neutral? When I ask myself these questions, do I truly believe that I can become successful? Am I still? And if I am not, something has to change. And the best way that I have found is evidence. What that means is, if you can have a paradigm break, right? So you essentially need to break your paradigm with evidence, right? So all it is you just have to find out, like, you just need one time where it works. And basically, so let's say like you haven't signed a client before. Let's say you, I don't know. I know a lot of guys that are like scared of going on dates or something like that, right? With like more attractive women than they are. It's whatever it is. Cool. All you need to break that paradigm, I'm telling you, all you need to break that paradigm is one of them. One of them. And how you do that is, first of all, it's in a sequence of steps, right? At least this is how I do it. At the very least, this is how I do it. Is one, I need to accept where I currently am. Accept who I am with my current skills, weaknesses, strengths, everything, where I currently am, surrounding this thing, right? That's one. So full acceptance. Step 2, after you've fully accepted yourself and release all expectation, is to now take the action to do the thing. Just think about it. I actually got this idea from my train. Genius ideas. And so actually think about it. When you accept yourself and release all expectation, now you give yourself peace, right? And then the action is what actually gets you to the thing. Meaning, you can get to the thing, you can do the action and fully accept yourself for where you are and not even like want it at all, and you can still get there by just doing the action. Or you can have the reverse. You can really want to be there and have the desire to be there in X, Y, Z, but not do the action, and you're still not there. So what is it that's actually going to get you there? It's the fucking actions that's going to get you there, right? So if you fully accept this, if you do it in this order, you fully accept yourself, you give yourself peace, and then you take the action. Now you can chill out to actually break the paradigm later on. Now step 3 is actually, if you take the action over time, you will break the paradigm, right? You will give yourself evidence which breaks the paradigm. The only reason why people are like so they can't do it is because they're not allowing themselves that peace. What do I mean? 1, if you don't do step 1 of fully accepting yourself for where you are, what happens? You have so much pressure and internal resistance. No shit, you're not going to take the action. Right? You know how you said just start? Cool. It's the simplest thing. Why don't you?
Yeah.
Internal pressure, internal resistance. So if we just accept it, if we just accept ourselves and not want to change anything, because we're like, oh, fuck it. You release the resistance, you release the pressure, and now you can take the actions and be at peace and actually do it. Because now you're just relaxed, you're just chilled.
That's interesting. I don't think I've heard that perspective before, and I really like that. Because I said just start, but I think it's so true. It's the resistance that we have within ourselves that oftentimes blocks us from actually doing the thing. So yeah, I think that's really good.
I do want to give credit where credit is due. I learned this from my train. Right, very, very, or I actually combined a couple of things. I learned the first half from Mike. I learned the second half from Ray Dalio, and then just personal experience to wrap it all together.
Personal experience is huge. Like I think it was Alex Hormozy said, confidence is having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I say I'm unconfident and I don't have any evidence. How do I build up evidence?
Those steps. Yeah. And the reason why is that you don't have the evidence. Cool. But maybe you can start with you can do those steps, right? Where you just accept yourself for who you are and not want to change, which releases all the internal pressure and all the internal resistance. And then you take the action, right, to do the thing. So let's say let's say someone is unconfident. Unconfident about what? Is it business or women or guys? Let's say dating, right? Let's say they're unconfident about dating. Cool. If you actually think about it, all it is there's only a couple of things about dating that people need to understand, right? And I can give away the fundamentals if you want.
Yeah.
One of the fundamentals is this: if you're going from a female to a male, like obviously I don't know male dynamic, I have no idea, no idea. But female to male dynamic, right? For the female to be attracted to the male, right? It's okay. Here's actually a really good example, right? For the female to be attracted to the male, what it is one of the core fundamentals is the guy's level of non-neediness, meaning the level of how much he does not need anything. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need approval. He doesn't need her. He doesn't need anything, right? He doesn't need a card to like fill this void. The level of his non-need is indirectly proportional. What that means is the more non-needy he is, the more attracted, right? It's indirectly proportional. No, is it indirectly or directly? No, it's directly proportional. Directly proportional to the level that she is attracted to. Yeah, it's directly proportional.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So the level that he's non-needy is the level that she's, at least in terms of energetic attraction or just attractiveness in general, right? I'm not talking about physical. Right? I'm talking about like, is she attractive? So that's one. The other part is just who you are, right? Like the other part is who am I? If you have a strong, steady sense of self and you are mature, you have very like mature traits and all of those things. 90%. I don't know how we got into this, but yeah.
So those are the two things.
Those are the two main ones. If you can get those down,
yeah,
you're pretty sweet. But it might take you a while.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the first one, because like for me, for example, like I grew up in a house full of girls.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of got more feminine energy of like needy chasing type of energy. Right. So it's like I had to unlearn that, and it was a complete process.
Yeah.
Still a process now, but that's definitely a process that it takes time. But yeah.
Okay. Do you want to know what's so interesting? Did you have a father figure?
Yeah.
Cool. Did you have a strong father figure?
I don't want to say no, but I don't want to say yes.
Okay, cool. And when you say you grew up in a house full of girls, are you talking about little sisters, older sisters?
Well,
so
little sister, two bigger sisters.
Got it. Cool. There's something that I say. I mean, this is anecdotal. Okay, so it's anecdotal. But what I have found is that, at least in this case, is don't use it as a negative. Use it as a positive. Here's what I mean. What I have found for a lot of guys is if you have a younger sister, I have a younger sister, right? If you have a younger sister, what ends up happening is you end up becoming naturally protective, right? Like I am naturally like pretty protective about the girls I'm around, or the girls that I'm like dating, or let's say we're like going out. Let's say we even drive to like, we're in Bali, right? And we even do like a road trip or something, and everyone's on their bikes. Cars are a little bit different story, but let's say everyone's on their bikes. What ends up happening is typically I'm probably like at front, like leaning. And here's what I require. I require a co-pilot, someone I trust, to be all the way at the back. And then what I do is I put all the women in the middle. Why? It's like wolf pack mentality. I need someone at the front. I need someone at the back. If someone is a better, like they have better directions or whatever, or they can contain it better, cool. You be at the front, I'll be at the back. No problems. I just need that to go on, right? Because there's this natural like protective energy within me. Now that's younger sister. Now if you have a older sister, what I have found for guys that have that dynamic is they end up. I have found that they are naturally good with, or they can unnaturally understand women. Why? Because think about it, like like he would interact with her older sister. She would like bring her friends over, right? And then you'll like talk to them, and you'd realize all of these things, like they go through cycles and emotions and et cetera, XYZ. So coming back to your case of how you said that, oh, I've grown up around women and these like maybe more feminine traits. Dude, flip it. It's the paradigm that I mentioned, right? Like currently you have a paradigm of, I grew up around women that have feminine traits. The fuck? If you invert that paradigm and go, oh, I grew up around women, so I understand women. I understand them. I understand that women require safety. They require emotional safety, physical safety. Right? They require like XYZ, whatever it is that you grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Just recognize the paradigms that we have.
100%. I like that. Yeah, because there's two perspectives to everything, or more than two.
Oh, there's way more than two. You can take on any perspective you want.
Yeah. Perception is your reality. So do you think people can, like, you know Joe Dispenza?
Yep.
So what do you think about like the feeling the reality now and then it coming?
Yeah.
You know, like that.
I don't know too much about Joe Dispenza's work, so I can't really get into that. But I can definitely attest to if you can feel. I mean, a lot of things are just internal,
Right?
like there have been so many times in my life where the external is great. External is great. Either I'm traveling or like living on a different continent. Yeah, I got a roof over my head, food, whatever it is, friends, network around the world, and then there's suffering inside. That's not what you want. So it needs to. It's all the internal. If you can, what I have essentially realized actually very recently is, if I can let go, if I can detach my internal world from the external world, I now can be at peace regardless. And I don't know if your audience can is your audience on the younger side or older side?
Yeah, younger.
Yeah. Okay, so for you guys, right, I can understand that maybe this might not resonate as hard because it takes a little bit of life experience. It takes a little bit of attaining the things that your audience probably already wants, right? Cars, money, go, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Go get that first. I'm not saying don't. I'm saying yes, do it, so that you can have the capability of. And then once you realize that it's empty, now you go deal with the real shit, which is this, which is the internal world, which is the peace inside of you.
You think you can deal with both at the same time?
Here's why. There is something. Do you know who Michael Singer is? Michael Singer. So the surrender experiment, letting go, etc., etc. Okay. So within his work, right? I've been going through his work lately, and within his work, he goes, you have to have the highest intention. Meaning, the reason why I say that no, you can't deal with both at the same time, is because what is the highest intention? Right? Meaning, what is the North Star of whatever it is? So if your North Star is A, trying to, become materially successful and then getting all these things, or your North Star is B, becoming internally successful, completely separate thing. Like they don't even supplement each other. Actually, it kind of does. If you get this, it's much easier to get this.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a completely different journey. Completely different.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that because, like, no matter how many times I hear someone say that doesn't make you happy and all, though I know that, I'm still going for these things, right? And yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. Recognize. So, do you know much about Buddha and his story?
Not too much, no.
Okay. So Buddha was actually a prince. Right. Buddha was he was actually already wealthy, and he gave it all up. He gave it all up, and then became who we know as Buddha. My point is this: the reason why I say still go for it, even though like happiness is not there and not at the end of the road, is because if you do not, you will always have this like what if, or you will always have like you can't fully go the route B completely if you do not shut off route A. And how you shut it off is just go for it, get the thing, realize it's not what you want, and now you can actually focus on what is important. But you have to go do this first.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, but it's if you already have that inkling, just go do it. Right? It won't take that long. Maybe a year, maybe 2, maybe 3. And for the rest of your life, you're like, oh, I'm good.
So I would say that most of my audience definitely wants to go for the part A.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for them on that journey to those things?
Part A.
Yeah.
Cool. My biggest advice here, right? So if you want to go for A, which is the material success, the wealth, partying, XYZ. My best advice here is always, it starts with identity, right? Like go read psychocybernetics, go look into identity work, go look into all these things. Because if you can alter your identity, if you can alter who you see yourself as, then everything else changes, right? So it starts there. If you really want like a playbook, I'll go identity first. Second thing I'll go for is paradigms. Third thing I'll go for is like in terms of like studying, right? Study these things, go for it in order, master them in order. After paradigms, meaning do the 4 steps, break your paradigm to what is required, right? The third thing I would go for is how do you portray yourself, right? Meaning, how are you communicating? So a really good way to do this is either go learn public speaking or go do improv, XYZ. Find out how you communicate. Find out how to communicate in a way that portrays yourself how you want to be portrayed, right? You do either those 3 things, and then you get the actual skill set of like business or whatever it is, or socializing. You're sweet. Like it's those are the 4 pillars, the 4 foundations of building anything in a party.
Mm-hmm.
Just easy. But if you miss any of these, you're kind of screwed, right? If you try to get the business, get the skills, have the paradigm broken XYZ, but you don't feel like, oh, this is who I am, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Now, if you have that, you don't have the paradigms, you don't have the proper belief systems, you're screwed. You have the skills at the end, you're screwed. Right? So you need all 4. And if you can't portray yourself to the world, or you can't get clients, you can't attract people, you can't attract women, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of I'm reading Atomic Habits, and how the best way to break a habit is by changing your identity.
Identity first.
Identity first, yeah. Because it's like, it's like 2 smokers, right? And one is like, they're both offered a cigarette. They're 2 non-smokers, right? They're both offered a cigarette. One says, no, I don't smoke. And then the other one says, sorry, I'm trying to quit. There's 2 identities. One's identity is not a smoker.
Yeah.
The other one is still a smoker. The trying to quit one is going to fall.
Correct.
But the other one, there's
So actually a really good point on that is this. I haven't drank in about 6 months.
Mm.
Right. And the reason why is, even if here's a thought that I had in my head recently. I'm like, people are like, oh, 6 months sober, or a year sober, 2 years sober, 3 years sober. I'm like, why fuck you counting? I don't get it. And the reason why I didn't get it is this, because is after they're sober, they go back to the thing. What are you doing? Which is why it has to start here. Right. Actually, if you go even deeper, it starts at your faith. Whatever it is, spirituality, whatever faith you have, it doesn't matter. If you can have a foundation of that, and then build on top of that, because if you can like rely on some sort of higher power, right, and then build on top of that, like you will not, you won't sweat.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So,
talk to me about vibrations, because it just came into my head when you said you're quitting drinking, and I just thought of like drinking as just a low vibrational activity.
it is.
So yeah, talk to me about like vibrations, how to raise your vibration, what vibrations actually are, because I'm sure people watching this are like, don't believe in it, but it's like, this is literally science. But anyways, tell me what vibrations are and how to raise them.
Really question. Okay, so for anyone that doesn't believe in vibrations, what I would advise for you, right? So I'm speaking specifically. So what I would advise for you is to go look into, all you require is a paradigm break, right? But it's not going to, if you want it to be true, it's not going to happen all at once. And it's going to be over time, right? So if you actually want to learn about vibration and get into all of this stuff, I would start with like reading either Joe Dispenza or literally just Google vibration on YouTube.
Go Proctor.
Yeah, Bob Proctor. Or like go watch a couple of these videos, find someone you resonate with and study. And just watch the videos. I'm not even saying studying take notes, I'm just saying watch the videos, right? And then get the inputs into your brain. Let that cement itself. Eventually, you will have a paradigm break. Eventually, right? Now, if we're going into vibrations and state and all that, so for me, right, at least this is my experience, anecdotal experience, is it can all be summed up within state. Like, what is my state? And the easiest way, because I'm actually an intellectual first, right? I like went into this world after. So I'm not hippy dippy, and then I kind of like starting from the word. No, I came in after. So how you can actually understand it is this: go search up the map of consciousness or the scale of consciousness. Legit, every single emotion can be tracked. Every emotion can be tracked. Guilt, shame, fear, right? Courage, love, joy, etc., etc. It can be tracked to a number, to a frequency. And your state is just what state are you in? Like, which one? So if you want to simplify it down and you want the science, this is it. Just look up map of consciousness, look up scale of consciousness, find out, it can be tracked. And then realize within yourself, this is going to take time, right? This is going to take self-awareness. This is going to take discernment to realize, hey, where am I at? Like, what am I experiencing? What is the main emotion that I'm currently experiencing? Whatever that emotion is, that is your state. That is your current vibration.
Do you think that like food, routine, or any of these things have acted in it?
For sure, yeah.
Okay. So how do you play on that?
So all right. For me, it's all about how do I feel in terms of this, right? Not in business. That's a complete whole other story. But in terms of this, it's about how do I feel. So today I signed up for, obviously, you guys wouldn't know, but here in Bali, there's this gym or this wellness spot called Nirvana. Right? Now, it's not exactly cheap. Right? It's not, compared to like the other gyms.
Yeah.
It's like top notch. But I don't care. And the reason why is I feel good when I'm there. Like, my state is higher. The food is cleaner. They're not cooking with stupid seed oils and all of this stuff. Right. So when you're talking about food, when you're talking about routine, when you're talking about all these things, yeah, all of it is just so it's legit. What I mentioned before, what is the real shit? It's here. So if I can increase the internal world, how I feel inside, why wouldn't I? Because that is your true reality. What do I mean by true reality? Is I don't know if you actually, probably most of everyone has experienced it, where everything around them is actually okay, right? You're probably at home chilling, you got a roof over your head, got food, friends. You're not in immediate danger, but for some reason you're suffering. Which one's your true reality? Tell me. Is it the suffering, or is it this? You're suffering.
Yeah.
So if you can if you go map of consciousness, what am I feeling, and then make that go greater by, eating proper food, by looking after yourself, by routine, by training, by intellectually stimulating your mind, being around good people, not being around goddamn energy vampires. Why wouldn't you? I don't understand.
Yeah. I feel like people, they don't necessarily, they're not conscious, or they're not aware of it in the reality, or how much it actually plays into their reality. Or like, yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know why people wouldn't Okay.
They haven't been trained. Right. So most humans, actually all humans, learn from environment.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I mean. If you take a human baby in 2023, you let's say you're playing God, right? You take a human baby in 2023. You take this baby, you go reverse back, change, right? Rewind time, reverse back 10 years, 100 years, right? 2,000 years. No, actually, let's go 2,000 years. You put that baby down in 2000, and then you take a baby from 2,000 years ago, and then you go back forward in time, and you put it down in 2022. What's going to end up happening is that baby is going to grow up exactly like their environment. There's going to be no difference. Not even evolutionary difference, because that's not enough time. Right? That's not enough time. So there's no difference. Okay, cool. What does that tell me? Essentially, people learn from their environment, and the reason why most people don't put weight on inner world, or on having peace, on having calmness, on raising their vibration, raising their state, all of these things, it's because the environment doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. It's very obvious. It's very clear.
Yeah, 100%. I think I can really resonate with that, because last summer I moved out of my hometown, and that was like incredible for me. New environment, like everything was basically selected in my favor of like, okay, I do this, I eat this, everything, right? And I did really well. And then I moved back home, and it was like everything grew back to normal. Yeah. And then I moved to Bali, and it was again back up. And just like talk about more in depth on environments, like if I didn't move here, then I would have the same business, but it wouldn't be doing the same thing, simply because of the people that I met, the ideas that they gave me, or something they said that made me get an idea. Just like everything about the environment is like conducive for, I think, success, like in business, personally, everything. It's like environment is insanely huge, and that goes with people too, right? Yeah.
Power is everything.
For environment.
I tell people all the time, and I had a coaching business at one point, and I told my student that I was like, hey, you cannot outwill your environment. Doesn't matter how hard you fucking try. You cannot outwill your environment. No one. If there's someone on earth that can outwill their environment, goddamn, they are fucking David Goggins, or like, they're just a beast, But 99.999% of human beings cannot outwill their environment. So why set yourself? Why play poker with shit hand? If you can choose your hand, like legit choosing your environment is choosing your hand, right? Why would I choose a 2-7 offsuit? Why wouldn't I choose pocket aces? So if you can choose the best hand, which is choosing your environment, you set yourself up for higher odds. Obviously, a lot of life is at least how I see it, is like probability. Right? Like you can't, like nothing is for certain. But I can dramatically reduce the probability or dramatically increase the probability of whatever the hell I want. Right? So, okay, a really good example is this. For me, if I wanted to get into, let's say, private equity, or I wanted to, actually no, let's say I wanted to get into like a Silicon Valley startup. I wanted to get into that world. Cool. How do I dramatically reduce the probability of me getting into that world? It's quite obvious. What is it?
Not go there.
Not good at it.
Yeah.
Right? And then how do you dramatically increase the probability?
Go there, go to cafes. Dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. And it's also, by the way, it's the same thing with everything. If you wanted to date a certain type of, person or girl or guy, whatever it is, you just have to think, all right, where would these people go? What kind of values do they have? What places are conducive for this thing and has this value? All right. A really good thing is actually, so in Bali, there's this place called like Istana. It's in Uluwatu, an hour from here. Now, it's a biohacking haven. Everyone that typically goes there is like fairly attractive, right? And everyone's into health. Cool. So if I was into health, I wanted attractive people, I wanted to get to know XYZ, I would go there. Or if I wanted to like get into old money or whatever, I would go learn golf.
Yeah.
Where it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's about probability, and if you think about it in that manner, it just makes everything a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. It's true, and I'm also reading Naval Ravikant's book.
Good book.
And he's talking about luck and how you can just get lucky, win lottery, right? 2 is you work to get lucky, so you're hustling, and then the luck just it finds you. I think the 3rd one is that you become so good at what you're doing that the luck finds you as well. So like, for example, you spend your life becoming the best diver in the world, and you're the best diver, but then the luck that comes is someone finds a treasure in the ocean and they come to you for it. Now their luck is your luck. And I think, it's like kind of back to what you're saying, is like you can engineer these things, and you can, like most anything can be engineered, but not in the way that most people think. And what I mean is this: most people are like, if I do, how do I guarantee XYZ? You can't. I want to tell you straight up, you can't. Right? The only thing that's guaranteed is what? Death, taxes, if you're living in like civilization, and
then probably, I don't know, add on, I don't know, right? There's one more, but I forgot. But those are the things I guarantee. Everything else is just a probability game.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean is, if you can go backwards, right? You go, hey, this is the life I want. This is the business I want to create. This is the type of person I want to date. This is the type of network I want to be around with. Cool. Split them up. Now, what are their values? Where are these people? XYZ, blah, 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 blah. Be in that same environment. Now, you increase the probability dramatically of having the same thing. Or meeting these people.
100%. It's like guys will want a loyal girlfriend, but then they'll meet the girl that they're dating in the club. It's like,
dates. Oh.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. I'm like, I just start going to libraries more. Maybe some girls. Okay, I think we could wrap things up here, but I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah, go.
So, if your younger self was sitting right in front of you, what advice would you give to them?
For me, if I had realized that my foundation is spirituality first, and then everything else goes beneath that, and then I would have had a much easier time with my life and less suffering. Because what caused a lot of suffering was chasing all of these things, or just not listening to the voice, whatever it is. That's what caused a lot of suffering. Right? So, but for that's my personal advice. But how you can actually just find your core is just look at. So if you want to find your core of the audience wants to find their core, is all you have to look at is going back to the point that I said at the beginning, which is signals, right? Like imagine a radar. A radar goes beep, beep, right? And that's and a really good way to do that is to just look at signals. Is go back on your journals, go back on your notes, go see what are things that you have said that you have wanted to do for years, right? Go see that. Oh shit, I had that idea 5 years ago. And then you would see that's a signal. That's basically your soul wanting something, if it's consistent. Right? Because it's not your wants and desires going like this. If it's consistent and it's the same thing that you're writing, it's your soul telling you. Very likely, there's a high probability that your soul's telling you. It's a message. So for me, my realization was, my signal at least was spirituality. If I can get this correct, everything else will fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
It has.
I like that. Yeah. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
I'll see you guys next time.